This is SBS World News with Virginia Langeberg.
Good evening. Emotional reactions have broken out across the United States as former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murdering George Floyd. The jury deliberated for just 11 hours before reaching the verdict. Tension in Minneapolis had grown throughout the trial, but today the pressure lifted with the guilty verdict.
Guilty!
It was the verdict they were hoping for. Hundreds crowding outside the Minneapolis courthouse, a moment of reckoning for a country so divided along its angry fault line of race.
Victoria has opened mass vaccination hubs across the state in a move that's hoped to get Australia's vaccine rollout on track. It comes as the Victorian government pledges millions in funding to help boost the nation's vaccine manufacturing capacity.
Wasting no time in getting their shot at one of Victoria's new high-volume vaccination hubs.
New South Wales Health is investigating a possible spread of COVID-19 in hotel quarantine. 3 travellers who were staying in 2 rooms in the Mercure in Sydney's CBD have tested positive for the South African variant. New South Wales Health is urgently contacting the other returned travellers who were staying on the same floor between the 7th of April and the 12th of April. The federal government has announced it will be tearing up 2 deals signed between China and the Victorian state government, linked to China's controversial Belt and Road Trade and Infrastructure Initiative. Foreign Minister Marise Payne considered the arrangements inconsistent with Australia's foreign policy or adverse to our foreign relations. The federal government also vetoed 2 other deals Victoria made with Iran and Syria. It comes after a nationwide review into the foreign arrangements of state, territory and local governments, as well as universities. One of China's senior diplomats in Australia has attempted to recast Beijing's actions in the Pacific, arguing it doesn't want to meddle in the internal affairs of other countries. The comments come as the relationship with Australia remains in a political limbo.
A show of confidence and affection as China's deputy head of mission takes a national platform.
Indonesia's Navy has requested help from Australia and Singapore to locate a missing submarine carrying 53 people on board. The German-made vessel was conducting torpedo drills north of Bali, but lost communication with the Navy early this morning. The craft in question was manufactured in 1978, undergoing a refit in 2012. Coming up, the government's $500 million investment in a so-called hydrogen valley. The federal government has announced it'll invest more than $500 million in carbon capture and hydrogen as part of its move towards achieving net zero emissions by 2050. It comes just days before a global climate summit hosted by US President Joe Biden, where leaders are expected to announce more ambitious climate targets, pressuring other nations to do the same. At least 22 patients have died at a public hospital in Western India when their oxygen supply ran out after a leak in the tank. The patients were suffering from COVID-19. Hospitals in the area are running low on beds and piped oxygen as the second wave of coronavirus infections swamps the country. On Sunday, Australians around the country will pause for Anzac Day. It's a chance to acknowledge the thousands of women and men who have served and died in wars, conflicts and peacekeeping operations, but also time to recognise their ongoing struggles. One Chinese Australian has opened up and shared his story to SBS about how he overcame racism from members of his own platoon and survived the war. Now he faces the battle of living with post-traumatic stress disorder.
Martial arts helps 71-year-old Vietnam veteran Philip Chinh Quan control his post-traumatic stress disorder.
And for more about Philip's experience in Vietnam and how martial arts has changed his life, head to SBS News Online for the full story. And if this story has raised issues for you or someone you know, you can get support from Lifeline at any time on 13 11 14. And support for veterans can be accessed through Open Arms at 1800 011 046. The unprecedented delay of the Tokyo Olympics has impacted athletes globally, and it's being felt personally for Keisha Gophers, a member of Australia's water polo Stingers team. She had planned to build a new life after competing in her second Games.
Keisha Gophers and her fiancé Scott were to marry after last year's delayed Olympics. Then COVID-19 and bushfires intervened.
To the weather now, and in the major centres, some possible morning smoke in Sydney, a shower or two in Melbourne, partly cloudy in Brisbane and Canberra, a shower or two for Adelaide, partly cloudy skies in Perth. Looking further afield, a fine day for Christchurch, partly cloudy across Auckland, thunderstorms in Samoa. In Southeast Asia, cloud in Jakarta, clearing in Denpasar, thunderstorms across Bangkok. Further north, cloudy skies for Beijing, drizzle in Shanghai and Taipei. Heading west, fine in Delhi, rain expected in Islamabad with a windy day ahead in Tehran. To Europe, a fine day in London, rain on the way for Paris and Rome. In Africa, a fine day in Cairo, cloudy across Casablanca, a few showers for Nairobi, further south, and some partly cloudy conditions for Johannesburg. In South America, thunderstorms in Caracas and Panama City, wet for Rio de Janeiro. And for North America, fine conditions for New York, thunder expected in Denver and Miami, partly cloudy conditions in Vancouver and LA. Queen Elizabeth says the royal family has been deeply touched by all the tributes paid to her late husband, Prince Philip. In the Queen's first public remarks since the Prince's death earlier this month, she said it was comforting to be reminded what an extraordinary impact he had on countless people throughout his life. Buckingham Palace has released this photo to mark the Queen's 95th birthday. And that's The World this Wednesday. The SBS News website has all the latest stories, and get news anywhere, anytime with the SBS News app. I'm Virginia Langeberg from me and the team. Have a great night.